It's time again for another installment of The Basics, and on today's show I'm going back into the Star Trek CCG to answer a question that keeps popping up, and that is, how do you use the Borg ship dilemma effectively? So, I'm going to show you. Let's get started, shall we? Ever since the Star Trek CCG came out in 1994, one of the most powerful cards and most annoying cards came out in the first set, and that, of course, was the Borg ship dilemma. Self-controlling ship. Weapons, 24. Shields, 24. Start here. Attacks everything. End of every turn. Moves one card toward an off-spaceline's long end. Destroy for bonus. And in a lot of cases, there weren't enough powerful ships or enhancements at the time of the game when it came out to defeat this ship, and even in subsequent boosters it was still hard to deal with. And it's been a favorite of mine to use, not in every deck, mind you, because you need to know where to use it effectively, but it can piss a lot of people off if used properly. Of course, if somebody does end up destroying it by some way, they get 45 bonus points, but it's quite something to do to score those 45 points. The question always has been, how do you use it effectively? And I'm going to show you two different ways. The first, which is a no-brainer, is incorporating it into your Borg deck. And you're probably wondering why you'd want to put a Borg ship dilemma in a Borg deck. I know it sounds, in one sense, a no-brainer, but in another sense, is it necessary? And my answer to that is yes, because I've done it. My Borg deck consists of one or two very menacing Borg cubes that are ship cards that are further enhanced by personnel and enhancements, and they're already unstoppable. Add that to the far end of the spaceline, or somewhere on the spaceline, and it just starts going off in the whatever direction, and your opponent is going to be frazzled beyond belief to have to deal with not only this, but your two ridiculous cubes that are going to end up wasting him anyways. So either way, he's going to be stuck. There's nowhere for him to go. And even if he happens to get rid of the dilemma, although highly unlikely, he'll still have to contend with that. The other strategy is to use more than one of this dilemma in your C deck and use it well. So basically, and I've seen this at tournaments, and I have to name drop my friend Josh again because he was actually really good at this. He'd put 2 or 3 of these in his seed deck and seed them at each end of the spaceline under my missions, or one in the middle on certain decks of his. He used this to brilliance with his Cardassian deck back in the day. And I was beside myself having to deal with the Keldon-class ships and having 2 of these damn things coming at me from opposite directions. That's the best way to use that card, is to use multiple copies of it in your seed deck. It's not always applicable. You have to be careful how you use it. The reason being, if you do have multiple copies of the Borg ship dilemma and the area of spaceline where the Borg are not is getting smaller, you're going to be in a cramped area with your opponent. You're going to have battles. It's detrimental to all involved sometimes. So you have to be mindful of this when you're putting multiple copies of the Borg ship dilemma in your seed deck to use them. I would recommend 1, possibly 2, depending on the type of deck. Again, including one in your Borg deck in the seed deck, all you need is 1, especially if you're using the Queen's Borg cube, Tactical cube, or even Locutus's Borg cube with all the enhancements. You don't need more than 1 of those in your deck. As an addendum to that, imagine if you're using a strictly non-aligned deck and you have 1 or 2 copies of the Borg ship roaming the spaceline, and you have rogue Borg mercenaries. That's going to be a very hard deck for your opponent to deal with. Doesn't matter the strength of your ships, because not only is he dealing with these dilemmas, you're beaming rogue Borg onto his ship, and they're beating the crap out of everybody, and he has to contend with what else you have sitting on the spaceline. So, again, using that in harmony with other cards to make the perfect trap is what really matters. Have a great day, everybody.